I've decided that one of my missions is to have my students learn by making them uncomfortable in certain acceptable sort of ways.
Coming towards the close, let's have some more light-weighted, light-hearted.
Yeah, sure.
Your favorite science fiction franchise, TV series, movies, whatever.
At the moment, For All Mankind.
What are the most important soft skills in your line of work?
I think there are two that I'll mention, but they're actually quite similar in nature. One is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. For example, if I'm speaking to an audience, it's good for me to understand the audience's background, how I should phrase things, how I should explain things at a level that is appropriate and something that they will find interesting and understandable. Similarly, if I'm working on a project, documentation is very important, and I have to put myself in the shoes of the person reading that documentation. I have to be able to document in enough detail and written in a way where someone who has previously never been exposed to this project or this technology can in fact follow this procedure or understand what was done and why it was done, and if necessary, reproduce it from scratch. So I think a sort of empathy and being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is a very important soft skill, whether it be for documentation, whether it be for, again, conveying information to someone else, or in my line of business, education, being able to ensure that the information I want to transmit to my students is something they understand, but also appreciate why they are expected to understand and learn this. I think the flip side of this, if we change people to environment, is being able to envision different sorts of environments. This could be an operational environment. Where is this, what sort of environment is this spacecraft or piece of technology that I'm going to develop be utilized? What constraints or requirements does this place on the design? For example, let's take a small satellite in low Earth orbit. The spacecraft is moving at a velocity of 7 to 8 kilometers per second, and generally is only within line of sight of my ground station for about 10 minutes, maybe twice per day. So in other words, for the vast majority of time on orbit, this satellite is not going to be out of my direct control. It will have to respond autonomously to various anomalies or various sensor inputs that will allow it to figure out what tasks need to be performed, what actions need to be performed at what time, and then to do that without direct human intervention. I also need to realize that once the spacecraft is up there, my means of troubleshooting or taking corrective action is extremely limited. Again, I only have maybe a 20-minute window each day to do that. I don't have access to a reset button that I can just push on the spacecraft. I'm trying to communicate with it on a radio link that is subject to interference, or simply might be difficult to close the link because of the high velocity and the large distances involved. So I need to consider this in my design and also in my operations. So again, being able to put yourself envision someone else's perspective, someone else's needs or background, or being able to visualize and account for the environment in which a particular product is to be operated or even developed. These are all very important skills in my line of work.
Actually, it is very similar to our line of work. We just call them agility or customer centricity. I think it's really one part of the same in a different, as you mentioned, perspective.
Absolutely.
So we are actually already towards the end. Is there any final question you have maybe to me, or you want to express a wish or a recommendation to our viewers?
I think for me, space has always been something I was interested in as a kid. And as I moved ahead in life, you know, your direction sort of changes. But for me, it's interesting in that starting out, I knew I liked space, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And everyone's like, what, are you going to be an astronaut or something? And I'm still not excluding that possibility. But you know, I didn't really think very early on that I would go down the academic path, that I would do physics and then aerospace engineering, and then move on to an academic career, and then now move on to corresponding more with industry. A lot of this has sort of been, I had a large direction and I just kept moving in that direction. At some point, you know, your focus just sort of narrows. So it's been a learning process along the way. And, you know, for me, I think in terms of learning, one very important thing is if you always stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to learn. The way you learn and really grow is to move outside your comfort zone. And so as an educator, I've decided that one of my missions is to have my students learn by making them uncomfortable in certain acceptable sort of ways.
I think it's a perfect closing. Well, thanks so much, Loren. Until the next time, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, T.